Well, certainly that confirmation that we got from the Israelis earlier on today saying that Hassan Nasrallah would no longer be able to terrorize the world. We later heard a bit more information from the IDF, from the Israeli Defense Forces, saying that, well, they wouldn't give us the intelligence, the precise intelligence which led them to believe that they had eliminated, in their own words, Hassan Nasrallah. They said, if we don't know something, we don't say anything, but we know. This time we know Hassan Nasrallah has been eliminated. Now, in terms of the Israeli side, I'm here in Haifa, which is in the north of the country, a coastal city here. Earlier on in the week, there were air raid sirens. People could look out of their windows at the sea behind me and see Israel's air defense system intercepting rockets which have been fired, targeting the city from Hezbollah. We've not had any air raid sirens yet today here in Haifa or overnight, but there have been plenty of sirens going off in various different communities in the north of Israel, as well as some parts of the occupied West Bank, in the north of the occupied West Bank. I have just been speaking to a local resident here. He's one of the few people who's out and about. The streets are really quite quiet today. Most people are staying at home, close to an air raid shelter, staying with their families. But I have been speaking to, a few local residents, those who've decided to venture out. And one gentleman just told me that he felt safe enough to come out because there are air raid shelters in regular parts. You can get to them quite easily here in Haifa. And also he said that he had been expecting a bigger backlash from Hezbollah, but so far we haven't seen that here in Haifa. That's what he told me. Of course, the big question for Israelis now is how much and to what extent will Hezbollah respond, and to what potential can they respond? How much have they been degraded by the Israelis?
Now, you mentioned that the Israeli military was not willing to share information relating to intelligence that led to the attack. But do we have any clues as to what exactly led to this targeted airstrike and how Israel was able to pinpoint the exact location?
Well, clearly all the signs are pointing to the fact that Hezbollah must have been infiltrated to some extent, because Israel's intelligence on the militia group, the Iran-backed militia group, was extremely strong. We've seen that in recent months, Israel managing to knock out members of the top brass of Hezbollah. Earlier on, not too long ago, we saw a group of some of the commanders of the elite Radwan force knocked out in an airstrike by Israel. Now, the Radwan force, they are infantrymen, highly trained. It would be them if Hezbollah were to have launched its own ground offensive into Israel. It would have been the Radwan force carrying out their highly trained infantrymen. Well, a whole load of their commanders got wiped out in an Israeli airstrike not long ago. We also saw the head of the drones program being knocked out, the head of the missiles program being knocked out. And of course, who could forget that attack on the pagers and walkie-talkies that Hezbollah members carry with them in their pockets. So Israel's intelligence on Hezbollah is extremely strong, that we know for sure. But exactly how they say they know that Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, has been knocked out, eliminated in their own words, they're not willing just yet to share that intelligence with us.
Now, those pager attacks followed one day later by walkie-talkie explosions. Were they seen as a game changer here?
Certainly, if you talk to Israelis, I was speaking earlier on to a couple here who were walking around the streets of Haifa. One of them said to me, the younger man said to me that he's left-wing, he's against war, he's against escalation. But in this case, he feels that Israel has done the right thing by launching that major strike on the south of Beirut, because he said Israel had the chance to knock out Hassan Nasrallah. They were right to take it. Of course, we do not yet know to what the scale is of the civilian deaths and injuries in Beirut, but we are expecting that toll to be very high. And Israel says this is all part of Hezbollah's strategy. This is something Hezbollah has always denied, but this is part of Hezbollah's strategy of deliberately using people as human shields and putting their headquarters underneath residential buildings in the south of Beirut. Israel saw the opportunity to knock out Hassan Nasrallah, the group's leader, and they took it. And they didn't, according to the Pentagon, even tell the US beforehand. Yoav Gallant, the Israeli defense minister, told his American counterpart Lloyd Austin, as the Israeli aircraft, were already in the air and on their way to carry out those strikes.
Now, Israel's chief of staff earlier said that killing Hezbollah was, quote, not the end of their toolbox. What can we expect in coming hours and days from the Israeli side?
Certainly not the end of the toolbox. The message there is very clear, and we heard Benjamin Netanyahu at the UN General Assembly saying this in New York just yesterday. He said the arm of Israel can reach anywhere in the Middle East. So the warning there is very clear. Israel feels that it's at the top of its game. It's made some big military successes here, and that let no one be under any doubts that Israel can go further and can do more. Question mark is, will Israel launch a ground offensive in the south of Lebanon and push even harder against Hezbollah? That we do not yet know whether that is on the cards and whether the Israeli army will be given the green light for that. It would be highly symbolic for Israel to go into Hezbollah territory, but at the same time there would be a risk to Israeli soldiers, capture as well as them getting killed. And here in Israel, when an Israeli soldier is killed or captured, it's a very big deal. Everyone in the country is aware, and there is mourning. It's a big issue for Israelis to imagine their troops being put in danger. So there's a question mark. Will Israel launch a ground offensive in Lebanon? That we do not know. And of course, we do not yet know exactly what Hezbollah's response is going to be and to what extent they can respond. How degraded are they in terms of capacity? That we're still waiting to find out.
And what are people around you in Israel saying about this potential of a ground offensive?
Well, there is fear, as I was saying, for the risk to Israeli troops. Now, we know earlier in the week, Israel said that it had put its troops in positions, maneuvered them into combat positions in the north of Israel. So they are prepared for the fight. They've not been given the green light that, but they would no longer have what they have, this air superiority. In the skies, Israel is far superior to Hezbollah, but down on the ground in Hezbollah territory is a whole different matter. And Hezbollah would have, to an extent, the upper hand of being on its own territory, of being defenders. That said, clearly, Hezbollah has been significantly degraded in recent days. The pager attacks, the walkie-talkie attacks, disrupting their communications, many members of the top brass being knocked out, Hassan Nasrallah at the top as well. So the question mark, of course, a ground offensive or not. There are advantages, Israelis will tell you, but there could be big disadvantages too.